The House of Representatives planned to use their new majority to launch a full-scale pro-life offensive against the Biden administration's radical abortion policies. Among the bills discussed include the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Now, this is one that I mentioned before. It has been blocked over 80 times by the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi refused 80 times to allow this bill to come to the floor. Now, there's more measures coming forward in the days ahead. No taxpayer funding for abortion, the Heartbeat Protection Act, and the Save Moms and Babies Act, which would help stop the interstate flow of chemical abortion drugs. Now, they're also advancing a resolution that expresses a sense of Congress condemning the recent attacks on pro-life facilities, groups, and churches, which we've documented here at the Family Research Council. Well, as Republicans bring these life-saving initiatives to a vote in the House, they will have no stronger ally on the Senate side than my next guest, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. He serves on 4 committees, including the Senate Budget Committee, where he's the ranking member, as well as the Senate Judiciary Committee. And he joins me now by phone. Senator Graham, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. Happy New Year.
Well, speaking of life, a little disappointing news from your home state of South Carolina, where the state Supreme Court there decided to ban the fetal heartbeat bill. Your reaction to that?
It won't stand. It was a really bizarre interpretation of the right to privacy provision of the South Carolina Constitution that was inserted in the Constitution in 1971 when abortion was banned. Roe didn't come out to 1973. So I think there are 3 judges out of the 5. I think it's going to reverse itself pretty soon. There'll be a judicial opening here. One of the judges that was in the 3 is going to retire, and I'm confident that the State House, we have one of the most pro-life governors in the country, Henry McMaster, had one of the best pro-life legislative bodies, House and Senate. So this will not stand. It will take a bit of time, but I think the courts, the decision will not stand.
Now, running up to this past election, this midterm election, you introduced once again a pain bill, which this is a point in which babies feel pain, and after that point, at 15 weeks, abortion, there'd be a federal ban on abortion. It was kind of like I was describing this to conservatives today, talking about what happened going into the election. I don't think Republicans were prepared for the success that came through Dobbs, but you stepped forward with this consensus measure that gave Republicans something to work with in terms of showing who was extreme on the issue of abortion.
God bless you and Marjorie at the SBA and a few others. It was pretty lonely, to be honest with you. So after Dobbs, the Democrats introduce and we vote on the floor of the Senate on a taxpayer-funded abortion bill up to the moment of birth. The exceptions were a joke. This was taxpayer-funded abortion, really right up through the 3rd trimester, and every Democrat voted for it. And I thought, okay, this is the most extreme position. This is North Korea and China. Let's get into the fight here. So I introduced the pain-capable bill. We know at 15 weeks the child can feel pain. And, there was a lot of sitting on the sidelines on the Republican side. So you were great. So I'm going to do this again. I'm not going to surrender Washington, D.C. to the radical Democratic left. I'm going to keep introducing my bill to have a national minimum standard, and my bill allows states to be more restrictive. The Democrats want to wipe out every pro-life protection that exists by a national standard, taxpayer-funded up to the moment of birth. This is a cause worth fighting for. They're the extremists, not us, and I appreciate your support and your prayers.
Earlier in the program, I was talking with the new majority leader in the House, Steve Scalise. We were discussing, and a longtime friend, he and I served together in Louisiana. The House is moving forward with pro-life legislation. This is one of those areas of clear contrast between the two parties. In fact, it's never been a sharper contrast in my time, in almost actually longer than a quarter of a century in politics. Speaking of helpful, the RNC, Ronna McDaniel, has been very helpful on communicating on this issue as well. Talk about the difference between the two parties and why this is a defining issue.
Okay, I think it's a defining moment for the pro-life movement. There are people who are saying that abortion should be a state issue. No, it is a human rights issue. I don't want to be like China and North Korea that allow abortion on demand up to the moment of birth. Ronna McDaniel filled the vacuum in very quickly. She was the chairman of the RNC. She spoke out loudly and clearly that the Republican Party should offer an alternative to taxpayer-funded abortion up to the moment of birth. The 15-week pain-capable bill puts us in line with a civilized world, and she was there when I needed her the most. Here's what I'll predict. In the coming years here, and it takes a while. Remember, partial birth abortion took about 10 years. This is a debate that we need to have and is worth having. I believe the American people are going to soundly reject taxpayer-funded abortion all the way up to the moment of birth as extremely radical and out of sync with the character of the American people. I think a 15-week national minimum standard that allows states to do more is eminently reasonable, and maybe one day we can do better than that. It is a fight worth having. It is a contrast worth having, and I'm telling my Republican colleagues who are running in 2024, if you can't label the Democratic Party extreme on this, you're not very good.
I want to go back to something you said a moment ago about how when the Dobbs decision was handed down, Roe was overturned. I mean, 49 years after the fact,
right.
Something that Republicans have had in their party platform for a long time. I mean, this is not a new issue. It's been around for,
right.
As I mentioned, Ronald Reagan really made it a mainstream Republican issue. Why? Why were so many Republicans content to stand on the sideline, or why were they voiceless?
Well, Roe made it all kind of talk. Roe was, prevented states and the federal government from acting except in very, very narrow areas. When Dobbs overruled Roe, which it should have, that was a great decision by the Supreme Court, a very good pro-life court. The Republican Party was not ready. And let me just say this. The Democratic Party, as much as I disagree with them, are all in on the abortion issue. They're all in for taking your money, taxpayer dollars, to allow abortion up to the moment of birth as a national policy, overriding every state pro-life law on the books. That is their position. They did not hesitate. They brought the bill to the floor, and every Democrat voted for it. And I'm going to tell you right now, my friend, that if we fight back and we inform the public of what they want to do, make America like North Korea and China, we will win on this issue. But it takes us fighting back. And Ronna McDaniel was a strong voice inside the Republican leadership. You were great. I had a hard time, quite frankly, getting my Republican colleagues to sign up. There's a narrative out there that I totally reject, that somehow the abortion issue hurts Republicans.
Right.
I don't buy that.
I agree. And I think this election cycle was an anomaly. And it was only because too many Republicans were silent. It was kind of like the dog that caught the car, didn't know what to do once they got it. We got Roe overturned. And as you said, really had not thought through that scenario. And there were a few that were able to step forward and talk through this. But here was part of the problem, and you and I talked about this previously on the program, is that, the 15-week ban or the pain ban is not my preferred. I'm pro-life from the moment of conception. You've talked about that.
I get it.
But this is a point of consensus. And so just as I did back when I was in office, I started a point in past legislation where you can get consensus and you can work your way forward. And that's how I think we got to the point of Dobbs, is that we built consensus across the country step by step. And I think that's what you're suggesting is the way forward from here.
Yeah, okay, I can't really say it any better. Okay, I'm in the Senate. We got to get 60 votes, right? It was my bill with Mike DeWine, the Lacey Peterson Victims of Unborn Violence bill, that got 72 votes. What did it do? If you cause harm to a pregnant woman on federal property and the baby is damaged or dies, you can be charged with 2 crimes, not 1. That took about a decade. So partial birth abortion took about 12 to 14 years. Mm-hmm. Here's what I think. If we can get the American people to think nationally, okay, What do we want to be like as a nation when it comes to the rights of the unborn? Do we want to be like China and North Korea, or do we want to be in the mainstream of the world where 50 of 53 European countries have a national standard at 15 weeks or below? The key to my bill, and I want people to understand this, yes, I'd like to do more, but my bill allows states to do more. The Democratic approach destroys every state pro-life protection at the state level.
Right.
So I'm giving cover to do more in those states where we can.
You're just setting a minimum. You're setting a minimum the states can do.
Absolutely.
The states can go as far as they can build consensus to do in those states.
Absolutely. And maybe we can do more in Washington. But here's the worst possible outcome for the pro-life movement: to say that there's no voice in Washington for the unborn, to surrender the nation's capital to the radical left when it comes to the pro-life movement. It is a human right issue. It doesn't matter where you're conceived. At 15 weeks, whether you're in California or New York, abortion at that point in the birthing process is dismembering a developing child in a most barbaric way.
Senator, I'm going to get you to respond. We're almost out of time, but I want you to respond to this as well. The House this week is going to be passing a concurrent resolution just expressing the sense of the Congress condemning the recent attacks on pro-life facilities, groups, and churches. We documented that. We put out a publication recently on that. The Department of Justice, you're on the Judiciary Committee. The Department of Justice, they've done nothing on over 80 attacks. They've done nothing when it comes to the attacks of pro-life organizations and churches, but yet they're out there arresting pro-life advocates under the FACE Act. What's going on?
Well, what's going on is a double standard. Okay, you got classified information apparently in Joe Biden's library. Does anybody say anything about that? So we live in a two-tiered system. You've got social media companies suppressing derogatory information about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden right before the election. Now you've got a Department of Justice that's using the power of the law in a one-sided way. Here's the radical left's approach. The unborn child is actually the enemy. I mean, the obsession they have with making sure that there are no protections for a developing child is barbaric. The American people, the further along in the birthing process, the American people reject late-term abortions. I think they will reject dismembering a baby who can feel pain at 15 weeks. I think they want to be in the mainstream of the world. So this idea where you allow the attack on a pro-life institution to go unpunished just shows you how radical they've become on the issue of the right of the unborn.
How do we fix this?
You win elections. How did we overturn Roe? Okay? We overturned Roe by staying in the fight, getting congressional majorities. God bless President Trump and Bush and all those who nominated conservative folks.
And senators who work to get them confirmed, like Lindsey Graham and others.
Everybody that I'm talking to on this that is listening knocked on doors and made phone calls. Well, now, how do you win? You have a fight. You have a contest. You're not a physical fight. You have a contest of ideas. Here's what I think will happen. If I keep pushing my bill, a 15-week, pain-capable, national minimum standard, you can do more at the state level if you can find consensus, we will win the argument. Yeah. How do you win? You win elections, but you've got to engage the other side. Right. If we surrender in Washington, that's the end of the pro-life movement, and I will never buy into the idea the pro-life movement is a states' rights issue. It is a human rights issue all over this country.
Agreed. Senator Lindsey Graham, we're out of time. Always great to talk with you. Next time we're going to talk foreign policy, all right?
All right, pal. Thanks.
All right, good to talk.